Okay, so imagine for a second, you're standing in front of this massive reinforced steel vault.
Hmm.
It's just huge, covered in, I don't know, like 95 years of dust. It looks like something straight out of a heist movie.
Right.
But inside, there aren't any gold bars or diamonds. It's something that, if you're a creative person or, just someone who loves culture, is way more valuable. Inside are stories, melodies, films.
Pieces of history.
Exactly. Pieces of history that have been locked away behind legal firewalls for nearly a century. And as of right now, in 2026, the timer just hit 0. That vault door just swung wide open.
It really is a dramatic moment. We spend so much time on this show chasing what's new, new tech, new trends, but sometimes the most disruptive new thing is actually something very, very old.
That's it. We are talking about the public domain gateway. We're doing a deep dive into this massive influx of creative works from 1930 that, as of this year, have finally had their U.S. copyright expire.
The 95-year clock has finally run out. And that number, it's not arbitrary. Under current U.S. law, works published between 1923 and 77 get 95 years of protection. So, for nearly a century, everything from 1930 was private property.
And now?
Now it belongs to everyone.
That concept, belonging to everyone, that's what we really want to dig into. If you're listening and you're a filmmaker, a writer, a game dev, a teacher, this is your moment. Our mission today is to unpack not just what is suddenly free.
And there are some heavy hitters this year.
Oh, yeah. But also how you can actually use it. Because it's not just about getting free entertainment. It's about a creative gold rush.
I like that framing. A gold rush. It touches on a life cycle of an idea. We think of books and movies as products, but eventually they transition, they stop being commodities and become, well, building blocks for our culture.
They move from the marketplace to the commons.
Exactly. But before you go out and start printing T-shirts or remixing movies, we need to be very clear. There are still rules to this game.
Right. Let's get into the weeds then. Section 1. What even is the public domain? I think most people just hear free stuff on the internet. Like, if I can right-click and save an image, it's public domain, right?
No, absolutely not. And that assumption gets so many people into legal trouble. Publicly available is not the same as public domain.
Okay.
When a work legally enters the public domain, it means the copyright protections themselves have expired. The legal barrier that says you need permission to use this is just gone.
So let's break that down. What freedoms do I have today with a book from 1930 that I didn't have last year?
Think of copyright as a bundle of rights. The right to copy, to distribute, to perform, to display. For these 1930 works, you now hold all of those rights. You don't need to ask anyone. You don't need to pay a licensing fee.
So hypothetically, if I wanted to take a classic 1930 novel, print 5,000 copies with a neon green cover that has my face on it, and sell them, I could do that.
Legally, yes, you absolutely could. You might not sell many, but the law won't stop you. But the most exciting right isn't just copying. It's the right to create derivative works.
Derivative works? That sounds like legal jargon for remixing.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It means you can adapt it. You can write a sequel. You can turn a serious drama into a comedy. You can take a character and put them in a whole new setting.
So like in space.
You can put them in space.
Yeah.
This is where the creativity really unlocks. You're not just consuming history, you're actively rewriting it.
I love that. But I think I saw you hesitate a little when I mentioned characters. Is there a catch?
Ah, yes. There is a very nuanced but here. While the copyright expires, something else doesn't, and that's trademark.
Right, trademark. Okay, so what's the actual difference?
Copyright covers the creative work itself, the story, the film. Trademark covers brand, identity, logos, and sometimes a character's likeness if they're used like a mascot. The famous example is a certain mouse that entered the public domain recently. You can use the specific 1928 version of that character from that first cartoon, but you can't do anything that tricks people into thinking your work is an official Disney product.
So I can use the story from 1930, but I can't market it in a way that suggests I have an official endorsement from the original brand if they still exist.
Precisely. Be clear that it's your production. But honestly, for the vast majority of works from 1930, the novels, the plays, the art, the restrictions are gone. You're free to play.
All right, that's the legal landscape. So let's look at the toys in the sandbox. 1930 was a huge year. And looking at our source material, there is a literary giant entering the chat this year.
Yes. The headline entry for literature is, without a doubt, William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying.
Which gives me some pretty vivid flashbacks to high school English class, not exactly a light beach read.
No, it's not. But that's exactly why this is so significant. It's a landmark modernist novel. It's famous for that stream of consciousness style.
Yeah.
It has, what, 15 different narrators?
Something like that, yeah.
It's dense, it's challenging, and it's brilliant. And for decades, the Faulkner estate has been, very protective of his work.
And when you say protective, you mean don't touch this unless you pay us and we say it's okay, right?
Pretty much. Estates protect the integrity of the work, which is understandable, but that can also freeze the work in amber. Now that it's in the public domain, it is open season for interpretation.
Okay, let's brainstorm then. What does this actually look like in the real world, beyond just cheaper paperbacks?
Well, start with education. That's the most immediate impact. This book is a staple in literature classes. Yep. Until now, schools had to buy licensed copies.
Which costs money.
A lot of money for a school district now. A teacher can legally digitize the text. They can put on tablets, print their own course packets. It just lowers the barrier to entry.
That's huge for access. But I'm thinking about the creatives. You mentioned derivative works. Faulkner's style is so internal, it seems kind of hard to adapt.
It is, especially for film. But think about other mediums. What about an indie game developer? They could turn that multi-narrator structure into a narrative exploration game, like What Remains of Edith Finch.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Or a graphic novel.
A graphic novel would be perfect. You
Yeah.
could have a different art style for each narrator to visually represent their point of view. A few years ago, clearing the rights for that would have been a legal and financial nightmare.
And now an artist can just start drawing.
They can just start. The book gets a second life and stops being a museum piece and becomes clay.
That's a great analogy. It re-enters the conversation. And it's not just Faulkner, right? 1930 was a big year for cinema, too. We were on the cusp of a huge shift.
Oh, yeah. The transition to sound. The talkies were really taking over.
The industry was figuring out how to tell stories with audio.
And the big film title entering the public domain this year is the adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front.
Wow. The Academy Award winner.
Yes, it won Best Picture. It's an adaptation of Eric Maria Remarque's novel. But the 1930 film itself is just this harrowing, incredible piece of anti-war cinema. And now that specific film is in the public domain.
So, again, thinking about the how, this isn't just about being able to download and watch it for free.
No, it's about reuse. Think about documentary filmmakers. This is a massive pain point for them. If you're making a documentary about World War I or early Hollywood, you usually have to pay for archival footage.
By the second, and I've heard those rates are insane.
It can kill a budget. Now you have high-quality Oscar-winning footage of trench warfare, of 1930s cinematography, and it costs $0 to include in your project.
That's a game changer for YouTubers and video essayists, too.
Totally. But I'm also excited about the remix potential.
Yeah.
We see this with things like lo-fi hip-hop videos or music videos. Creators love that grainy, high-contrast black and white aesthetic.
Oh, yeah. You could take scenes from that movie, slow them down, put a modern synth track over them, and create this really moody, atmospheric piece.
And legally, you are completely in the clear. You're taking a piece of culture and recontextualizing it. It becomes raw material. Just like a painter buys paint, a digital creator now has this footage in their palette.
Speaking of palettes, the source material also mentions visuals more generally.
Yes, the static visuals. This is a goldmine for graphic designers. We're talking everything published in 1930. Magazines, posters, advertisements, book illustrations.
And that vintage aesthetic is huge right now. You see it everywhere. Coffee shops, craft beer labels.
T-shirts. And usually, designers have to fake it. They use digital filters to add noise, or they buy modern stock art that's drawn to look like it's from the 30s.
But it never looks quite right. It's always a little too clean.
Exactly. But now you can go to the source. You can grab a scan of an actual advertisement from a 1930 magazine. You can use that typography, that specific illustration style. You can scan it, clean it up, and put it on a tote bag or a website.
So if you're a marketer, you just got a massive library of authentic 1930s clip art.
Authentic is the key word. It has the texture of the time. That carries a certain weight that you just can't replicate digitally. It connects people to history instantly.
So we've got books, movies, and art. Now we have to talk about the soundtrack of 1930. Because looking at the notes, this seems like the area where people are most likely to get into trouble.
This is the danger zone. Music copyright is famously complicated.
Why is that?
Because there are two distinct copyrights involved in every single track you hear.
Okay, the source says early jazz and Broadway hits are entering the public domain. That sounds amazing, but Walk me through the trap.
Okay, you have to distinguish between the composition and the sound recording.
Let's break that down.
The composition is the song as it was written on paper. The melody, the lyrics, the notes on the sheet music. If that song was published in 1930, the composition is now free.
Got it. So if a classic standard was published in 1930, I can grab my guitar, record my own version of it, and put it on Spotify.
Yes. You can record your own cover, you can rearrange it as a punk song, you can print the lyrics on a poster. You don't owe the songwriter's estate a single cent for that.
That's clear. So where's the trap?
The trap is the sound recording. Just because the song itself is free, that doesn't mean every recording of it is. So if, say, Frank Sinatra recorded that 1930 song in 1955.
That recording belongs to his record label.
Correct. That specific audio file, the performance captured on tape in 1955, is still under copyright. You cannot sample it. You can't use it in your movie. You can't just drop it into your podcast.
So, sheet music from 1930, go. A famous recording from 1955, stop.
That's the safest way to think about it. Now, it gets a little more complicated because sound recordings from 1930 are also moving into the public domain now. But as a general rule, your safest bet is you have the rights to the song, not necessarily the famous track.
That is such a crucial distinction. I can just see someone finding a cool old jazz record, sampling it for a beat, and then getting a cease and desist letter.
It happens all the time. But don't let that scare you away. Think about what this means for musicians. They can look at the charts from 1930, the Great American Songbook era, and breathe new life into those melodies without paying publishing royalties.
Which makes producing a covers album way, way cheaper.
Significantly.
This leads us perfectly into the business side of things. The source talks about practical business value. This isn't just art for art's sake.
No, this is strategic. Think about how much big companies spend on IP. They pay millions to license characters or music to associate their brand with that emotional weight.
Right. And if you're a startup, you don't have a Marvel budget.
Exactly. But the public domain is like a subsidized resource library for businesses. If you need imagery for a marketing campaign or you want to create a line of merchandise, mugs, posters, clothing, using these 1930 works means you have zero licensing costs.
And it lets you align your brand with the prestige of a classic novel or the cool factor of early cinema.
Right. And it also helps the bottom line for nonprofits and educators, like we mentioned with Faulkner. If you can legally photocopy these texts, you are removing financial barriers.
It's the democratization of culture, really, but also just smart business.
It is.
Yeah.
And the source material brings up this idea of the life cycle of intellectual property, which I find fascinating.
What do they mean by that?
Well, we tend to think of ownership as permanent. I made this, it's mine forever. But the copyright system isn't designed that way. It's designed to be a temporary monopoly. It balances the creator's right to profit for a limited time.
With the public's right to eventually access and build on that work later on.
Exactly. It starts as private property to incentivize creation, and it matures into public property to enrich society. It's a reminder for modern creators, too. The work you're making today will eventually join this public pool. It's part of a legacy.
That's a wild thought. But before we get too philosophical, we have to bring it back to reality. Let's get to the warnings, because there are definitely traps.
Oh, yes. The buyer beware scenarios. The strategic reminder. Just because the original 1930 work is free does not mean every version you find on Amazon is free.
This is where people get sued.
This is exactly where people get sued. The most common trap is translations.
Ah, right. We mentioned Remark earlier.
Yep. All Quiet on the Western Front was originally a German novel. Now, if you can find a translation that was also published in 1930, that translation is public domain. But if you grab a copy at a bookstore today, it might be a new translation from 1990 or even 2010.
And that translator has their own copyright.
Correct. A translation is a new creative work. So if you use text from that 1990 translation, you're infringing on the translator's copyright, even though the original book is free.
That is tricky. So you have to find the specific 1930 version.
You must verify the source. Find a scan or a physical copy of the original 1930 edition.
Does the same thing apply to revisions, like if an author updated their book later?
100%. If an author published a book in 1930, but then released a revised and expanded edition in 1950 with a new introduction and 3 new chapters.
Those new chapters are off limits.
Completely. They are still under copyright. You have to strip it back to the 1930 version. If you use a new intro written by a scholar in 2005, you're in trouble.
So practically, if I'm a creator looking to use this stuff, I can't just grab the first PDF I find online.
No, that's risky. The gold standard is finding a scan of the 1930 first edition. There are archives, libraries, databases for this. Don't just copy-paste from a random website. You have to verify the text.
A little bit of detective work is required.
It is, but the effort is tiny compared to the value you're unlocking. You're getting a world-class story for free. An hour of due diligence is a small price to pay.
Okay, so let's recap this whole creative gold rush. The Vault of 1930 is open. We have William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying ready for graphic novels and video games.
We have All Quiet on the Western Front and early sound cinema ready for remixing and sampling.
We've got the Jazz Age and Broadway compositions ready for new covers. Just be careful with those specific sound recordings.
And we have a treasure trove of visual art ads, posters, illustrations for that authentic vintage feel in your branding.
It really is a huge opportunity. It's not just history, it's raw material.
That is the key takeaway. These works provide a rich foundation for creativity in the present. They aren't dead artifacts. They are seeds for whatever you want to create next.
It makes you wonder, though, right? We're sitting here in 2026 looking back at 1930 with all this excitement.
It does.
So here's a thought for you to chew on today. We talked about the life cycle of ideas. Everything eventually belongs to everyone. So look around at the culture you love right now. The blockbuster movies of 2026, the songs topping the charts this week.
They seem locked down now, like permanent corporate property.
They are, but 95 years from now, people are going to be having this exact same conversation about our culture. They'll be waiting for the vault of 2026 to open. What masterpiece from today will be the raw material for a creator in the 22nd century?
The cycle continues.
Thanks for diving in with us. Now go make something cool.
See you next time.